Everybody, welcome back. This is week 8. We finished our series, technically the 7 steps, last week, but I wanted to do a bonus episode right here that's really explains two things. One, it really covers the 7 steps in very brief detail, but then it also really explains why I'm so passionate about groups and why groups are so important and why Step Out and Thrive is even here. And so many of you guys have been with us this whole entire series, which is amazing. Blows my mind. I'm so glad this is helpful. Some of you guys may be listening to this later because I decided to go ahead and link this on to the 7 steps workbook that you can get for free. So that way people can always refer to these podcasts too, which is a great addition, right? So that some of you guys might be listening back to that now after working through this workbook. But if you got to this point and you really have sat and done the work, can I just say I'm so proud of you? That takes a lot of energy, that takes a lot of capacity to do, but it also is going to really help your group launch and go the distance. Because I think I remember back in the very first episode when we were talking about purpose, I used the illustration of me running, right? And working up that endurance, but it really came back to mindset and really came back to why this was so important to me. Same thing with your group. You go back to that purpose. Why is that so important to you? And you back everything up against that and you really give it to God and you pray about it, and everything else seems to make its own alignment up to that. The last part with the evaluation really helps you improve. So, evaluation improvement. That's the only part that, I mean, you want to make sure that's tied on to purpose, but that's also more in your hands depending on if you allow that to happen. So, just as a review, here's our steps. And I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you already know about the BethanyBoring.com website and you know how to get the workbook. If you don't, go there and get the workbook. And so that way we're all on the same page. And again, if you're jumping in now, you can watch this episode and then get really excited and then go back to episode 1 of this series so you can work through this and get your group launched. And so, reminder, the very first step that we talked about was define your purpose. And that's what I just talked about how important that is and how important it is to stay on that until you feel good about your why, until you can explain your why, until you feel it deep within your being that it's that important. It had to be important to get me up at 5 a.m. in the morning to run. It had to be that important to get me out in the rain to run. It had to be that important on mile 6 and mile 7. You have to do something. It has to be a why that's so deep in you, an experience that you walk through, training that you have that you really feel like not only can you experience, but that you can turn around and offer to people again and again and again for this group setting. So your why, your purpose. Number 2 is establish guidelines. And we talked about, yeah, purpose is great, but you need to put some guidelines in place early on that backs up your purpose. And those are things that you don't back away from. It's so tempting to change the guidelines later on to get somebody special in your group or to make sure that it fits within their schedule. When you put guidelines that you are not going to back down from, that reinforces your purpose, again, it helps keep the purpose front and center. When that purpose is clear, your group can go the distance. So that's why guidelines are so important to put in practice there. Number 3, pray for and connect with participants. Pray for and connect with participants. We talked about George Mueller and how I loved that part about the book where he went and he prayed for this orphanage. He prayed for the workers. He prayed for all the resources. But when launch day happened, he didn't have any orphans. And the reason is he didn't pray for the orphans. So really to spend time and pray for those that we believe that God is sending for our groups, but also follow George's example. Pray for everything else too. Just spend some time and really pray over what all is going on and then listen. Don't just let it be a one-way conversation. Prayer is 2 ways. Listen to what he is saying. Get other people involved with you. Make it a group prayer over this group that you're being called to start, and really listen about the participants. And then have communication, have connection with them, have a virtual coffee or a real coffee, and just connect with them. And not only with those participants, but with other people that may be coming in contact with the right participants for your group. So spend some time on that. Number 4, decide on a meeting schedule. And we talked about why this is so late in the game, because you've been praying. You've been praying for the participants. You've been talking with your participants. And then you're like, well, Bethany, now I do a meeting schedule. The reason this is so late is because your purpose is so cemented now. You've got it so cemented on your guidelines. You've got it so cemented on your why. You got it so cemented on the types of people that you're asking to be in your group, your resources. So your schedule should be based on when you have the most capacity, the most energy, the most time to really dedicate to this group. It should not be about the people that you want in the group. Not originally, because here's the thing, you can have the perfect people in your group, but if it's a time of day where you feel stressed out and you're not able to come and bring all of yourself to that group, it's pointless. You need to be yourself for that group. You don't need to be somebody else. You don't need to be the stressed out person. You need to be able to dedicate that hour and a half, that 2 hours, however long your group's going to be, on a repeated schedule. You need to be offered the group in a way that you can show up continually in that group. So maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once a month. You get to decide. You're in control of that. So to really sit back and go, okay, with this purpose, and for this people that I really want in my group, I need to be able to dedicate this much time. And this is the time of day, and these are the weekdays that I can show up the best. That's how you do that. That's how you figure that out. Number 5 is prepare. We talked about that it's not about all the preparedness that we just did. That seems like a lot of preparation, but this is the step that a lot of people mess up on, because that's where they start. They don't do their purpose. They don't put their guidelines in place. They don't pray. They don't do any of that stuff. They just start with the preparation, like, okay, this is the Bible study that I want to lead, or this is the thing that I want to teach. They don't do any of that pre work. So what happens is they get stuck either on this very step, because they try to prepare, and get everything looking perfect, and they never actually launch. Or they prepare a little bit and launch, but then they forget their why. And the group is all over the place, and nobody really understands why you're there to begin with. And so that's why it falls in right here. And that is the biggest trap too, is that I even talked about, if you have a purpose in place, you don't have to have all the preparations dotted and crossed. That you can have your resources, that you can have connections with them, and you can build the plane and flight, but get it off the ground. So this helps, that your purpose helps get it off the ground and going. Number 6, facilitate your meetings. And we talked about there's actually facilitator training. Imagine that. I talked about some of my experience with facilitator training and what we do in tip community groups that's so special, and why you really do need training to be a leader, training to be a facilitator. I'll add this gem right here, because I was contacted later on by a church that said, hey, so you're telling me any small group leader that we put into place that we should spend some time training? Yeah. And so churches as organizations, there's training that you can put on for your church leaders. It should be a safe place. When we are offering a safe place for other people, we cannot offer what we ourselves have not experienced. If we have not experienced a safe group, if we have not had training to offer a safe group, we need to have that in process first. And so my idea is that when we go and we train our leaders, but they can be trained in a small group environment. Doesn't that make sense? A lot of times when we're training, we'll say, oh, go watch this video. And then we throw them into a group and wonder why it goes crazy. Small group training should be in a small group. It should be based on that experience. It doesn't need to be done on a whim, especially if you're really expecting a group to be the backbone of your church or the backbone of your organization. If it's really going to be that strong, you need to put the time and energy into training those people and encourage those people and make sure that they can fill up so that they can pour out. That's another reason why Step Out and Thrive exists and the model exists. So after that, you got facilitate, and then the last one we talked about last week with evaluate and improve. And evaluate and improve is really one of the more important steps that get left out. We talked about how a lot of times you just get this form that's sent to you and you fill it out, and how much times that really doesn't do a whole lot in the end game. So really we talked about choices and questions and things that we can do along that line to really help us evaluate ourselves, also the group evaluate, but also improve for future reference. So that is everything in a nutshell. you can go back and maybe you realize as you're listening, I really need to do better with that episode, or I really could do better in this episode. And so go back and just spend some time. I'm not an expert. I learn with every single group that I facilitate. And I still have some times where I will ask my group, hey, can I record a session or two? Because I still have some people that I trust. And I say, hey, can you evaluate? Can we sit down? Can we talk about this? Because I'm always looking to improve, and we should be able to do that. With that being said, I wanted to wrap up just by sharing why I'm so passionate about groups. And I kind of touched on it in a lot of these, but here's the thing that we're doing a lot of times in churches, in our coaching, in our ministries, in our counseling sessions. We're trying to do it all one on one. Or if we do a group, it's very, okay, we'll follow the book and we'll do what the book says. And it's not really transformational. It's a great experience, but it's not really transformational. And it doesn't really fill us up. We show up and it's almost like it's energy draining, right, to us. What if we could do it differently? What if counselors and pastors and coaches, if we could show up to a group where we can truly be seen and heard and understood, we can show up and actually check in without any judgment, where we know for sure that that group can give us things and give us resources that we can't get anywhere else. That it's a completely safe place for us to experience God in a brand new way. That when we go to these groups, that we leave so overflowing that we can run laps around the house. And we can even facilitate groups like that. Because when we experience groups like that, we can actually offer groups and offer spaces like that. So not only in a peer-to-peer relationship, which is what we cover first of all in TIP community groups, but then we also launch groups within our counseling practice for clients, groups within our churches for other group leaders, or maybe even members of our church. We can go and replicate it in so many different ways, and we make it so easy to do, but it takes practice. And it takes repeated practice over and over and over again to really build these deep relationships. We make it so complicated. We really do. We make it so complicated. And I think we give people more credit than what we can, that know how to, that feel like they should do a group, that haven't really experienced a group and haven't really experienced a trained facilitator inside of a group setting. My passion is that we can do it differently. My passion is that we have counselors that are connected with groups where they can be seen and heard and understood. And then out of that, meet one-on-one with clients or lead groups for clients that are so transformational that they are really making a huge impact. My dream is that churches can have small groups where people feel so seen and so heard and so understood that they get to see God in a father role, God in a brother role, God in a sister role, the Holy Spirit in ways that they can actually see and touch and understand, and it becomes relational and it transforms the way that we do church. I have a dream that in families that we learn how to check in with one another in a different way, that we could sit around the table and do dinner and really have these deep level conversations without it being weird or awkward. These tools, these resources, these life transformational groups can change, I believe, even the world. But it takes one group, it takes one leader, it takes one counselor, one coach, one pastor, one person at a time. I don't know if that's you, but if it is you, I would love to have you be a part of this group. And here's the thing, if you've been watching this, you've already been called. You have that group in mind that you want to lead, that you feel called to lead. Don't walk away from that. If you don't get the training that you need here from Step Out and Thrive, I ask you to please get it somewhere, because I don't want to see you burn out on the calling that God has called you to do. So please get the training that you need, get the encouragement that you need, and let's go and let's change the world. All right, guys, one person at a time. You got this. I hope this helps. I hope these resources helped. Again, I'm here for as much as I can be. The TIP community groups are here. The TIP groups are here. The podcast is here. We try to make sure that we do resources to really equip you in your calling. And so I really do believe in you. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited that you got to be part of this podcast series. All right. Love to hear from you. Tag me on the socials. Let me see your completed workbooks. Connect with me. And I cannot wait. Please let me know if you launch a group. You can see me all excited about that, but I'm serious. Please let me know if you launch a group because I want to celebrate with you. You got this. I'm so excited. All right. See you guys back next week for a brand new series. And congratulations if you finished. All right. See you guys later. Bye. You got this. Proud of you. Bye.